In the One Piece community, there's been a discussion around for many years that goes over Toei's management of the anime and how a lot of people think that it's not the greatest. And as that discussion has come back up once again, I feel as though I should create a video on it to really dive into what the community doesn't like and if Toei is doing a bad job. So strap in, because I'm about to get real in depth with this video. But before I do jump into the video, if you guys enjoy content like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe, as I do post content like this regularly, and to be honest, it's a win-win. You guys show me love and support and give back to you in the form of videos, whether it's One Piece, other anime, or just fiction in general. In due time I'm covering it, so be there when I go there. But I feel like I've rambled on long enough, so I'm going to straight into the video and go over if Toei is ruining One Piece. Now before I do dive into anything specific, I want to give you guys a little history lesson. Now, the community has probably always had something to say about Toei running the One Piece anime, probably even back to the 90s. But where it really did kick in, from where we know at least, would be around from Dressrosa. And Dressrosa was the main point, and that was mainly because of the pacing. Now, although the pacing was a massive issue, the animation was also terrible at the exact same time. And the reason this is because at the exact same time, they were also releasing Dragon Ball Super, like the series that's well known for being poorly animated for the first, I don't know, 80 episodes. This is something that's really key. Now, whether the community was arguing about it prior to that is probably true. I mean, every community does complain, but from what a lot of people that are now in the fandom and what I can tell, that is where us as like the current viewers now knew where it really did pick up, and that is where the complaints were actually starting to become more of not just people saying it in a very loose sense, but instead they're saying it because it's actually just the case. And so throughout the years there have been many different criticisms, but where people started to stop it, or when it would just come down to the pacing instead of the animation, would be Wano. Now everybody knows how the Wano art style basically fixed and just patched everything that was sort of bad with Toei's animation style. See, the Toei animation style before felt very soft and weird, and their faces would change a lot, but now moving into Wano, it was different. Everything was very defined, and it felt like to have bad animation, it would be more of like the character moving and stuff like that looking a bit jagged, instead of just the character looking weird itself and their movements also looking jagged. But with that being said, the pacing didn't improve, not in the slightest. Wano's pacing in the anime was quite honestly horrific. It was terrible, and it did put a lot of people off of the anime. To be honest, that is the main reason I switched over to the manga. I was tired of it. I mean, I got through Dressrosa, but Dressrosa was a binge. When I caught up to Wano, it was going on week by week, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this. But with Wano out of the way, we have Egghead, and once again they have switched their style. And this style, even though it is far more softer, it's still very consistent, and we do get a lot of beautiful animation pieces. See, with Toei switching up their styles and the budget going up since Dragon Ball Super had ended, what they have been able to do is put a lot more time and effort into just animating the beautiful scenes while sacrificing the scenes that we kind of don't care for. And I think everybody can agree with me when I say the moments we don't care about don't need to be animated properly. We don't care about them. But when it comes down to a very crucial scene, that is when it should be animated to flawless perfection, and we would like it to be extremely one-to-one with the manga. Now, with Wano spicing things up and just different things going on inside the series, we do get to see that Toei love to spice it up. Now, when I say this, I mean that in Wano, due to everything that was going on and due to the manga being a lot more short with how the final raid really went, Toei had the ability to then expand upon it. And I think this is where I started to pick up on it. Now, obviously, there was rumblings before and obviously stuff like that, but to me, I really started to pick up on Toei doing different things with different characters depending on who they are doing it on. For instance, Zoro's final fight in Wano and Sanji's final fight in Wano. Now, before I do talk on those two things, I just want to point out that it is the anime's job to extend what we don't see in the manga. For instance, we get to see the fight that Sanji had with King and Queen. That is something that I'll forever love the anime for, but when you then transition into both of their fights, it made Sanji look like he had to try extremely hard with Ifrit Janbei. Not really hard, but it looked like he had to use a lot more force and just do a lot more to Queen than he did in the manga. See, this is where the one-to-one thing really does annoy a lot of the fans, because a lot of the fans just want to see one-to-one. I was actually expecting Sanji just to jump down and just beat Queen in that one barrage, instead of it being very, very stretched out and Sanji having that emotional moment. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Sanji having that emotional moment wasn't great for him, but it just felt like, okay, Sanji for Wano was getting a lot of great treatment, and that is something that I'm never ever going to take away from Toei. But I mean, I think it's mainly because of how me and a lot of other Sanji fans view the series in that way, where it's like, now they're making him like he's weaker than he should be. That is where it came across as. While you then have Zoro's fight, where he is then dissecting a king that looks like he could take on basically anyone in the world when he's going at full power. That is the difference. Now, one thing I will say is that the Sanji thing, I actually have, okay, me personally, I would rather that it was just one barrage. We had a little flashback as he was like jumping down, and you could then say that, oh yeah, he then fueled his passion even more as he was jumping down. Obviously, he's having that little moment with Zeph and everything, and then he just beat Queen. But I think the whole cinematic thing that was Sanji's episode was like a movie, and I will forever love Toei for that. But then you have Zoro's episode, and it's just straight boxing. Now, me personally, I do prefer Sanji's episode, not because I'm a Sanji fan, but because I like what they did with his character there. But then when you have Zoro's one, I mean, look, listen, Ryan and all that is cool. I love that. Sanji did have some cool aura and hype moments, but you then get to see all them like thousands of dragons coming towards Zoro, and you're not gonna tell me that's not cooler than what Sanji got. I don't know, man. Now, personally, I do believe that this is sort of something that I think you can complain about, but if you actually do use this as an argument for Toei ruining One Piece, I just think that they took creative liberties here and made the scene better, in my opinion. Would I have preferred that they just went with the manga version? I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody does a one-to-one version of it, but it's their job to extend and do what Oda doesn't show. So I kind of get it, but that is where it kind of stops from my praise for them. You see, as soon as Egghead started, a different vibe was about Toei. Now, see, the Egghead adaptation for One Piece has been a little bit odd. You see, certain panels aren't adapted properly, and it's not even like they're given an explanation, they just don't do it properly. Now, I'm obviously a fiend to see things that were in the manga get expanded upon, because I just believe that is what the anime is for. It's an adaptation of the manga that can then improve off of it. That is why I feel like if you're going to be anime only, that should be the reason. But instead, they change scenes fundamentally, remove characters, and just remove everything that was basically surrounding the scene to do nothing with it. For instance, when the Straw Hats all fought S-Shark at the beginning, they did a few things similarly, but they made Sanji look extremely pathetic. Now, as a Sanji fan, I'm obviously going to point that out, but you didn't need to include that in that scene. There's also the other scene where in the manga you have Frankie and Sanji obviously getting ready to do with the Seraphim, along with Zoro being there as well. But instead, in the anime, Frankie isn't even there. And they completely changed Sanji's whole entrance there. Yeah, they're changing things that like a lot of the fans point out that was cool in the manga, but then saying, nah, we're gonna do our own way and then change it to this. Now, what's pretty funny about all of this is that I talked about the pacing earlier, and I think the anime has actually improved a little bit, but it's not to the degree that you would want from an anime. You see, the average anime, let's say Jujutsu Kaisen for instance, does have a 2 to 3 chapter adaptation per episode, and that does make sense as a chapter is only sometimes 13 to 19 pages long. I mean, some My Hero chapters were like 7. Compared to what an anime is meant to be, the manga doesn't have as much substance as it should. So what they have to do is they either have to put a lot of chapters in one episode, or they'll put a lot of chapters in but also expand on what they do, but also not trying to change the story that much. And an anime that does it perfectly is Jujutsu Kaisen. You see, with Jujutsu Kaisen, even though the whole studio and whatnot is extremely shady, as they do abuse their animators, their work is phenomenal. And Toei definitely needs to take a leaf out of their book. Not on how they treat their animators, but how they adapt the source material. The best example of this would be the Sukuna fight against Maharaga. They added so much to it, but didn't remove any sort of storytelling or whatnot from the manga. And it's not to say that One Piece doesn't do the exact same thing, but when they do include extra things, it doesn't feel forced. It feels rewarding, and this is something that a lot of people have been saying. And that is why I truly do believe that Jujutsu Kaisen has one of the better anime adaptations out there. And while I'm on the topic of this, in Toei's defense, there are a lot of anime studios out there that will actually just change certain story beats so they can make their own version of that story. A very popular example, one of my favorite examples of this, would be Akame ga Kill. The ending of Akame ga Kill and some of the events leading up to it are very different from what the manga did. And to be honest, you do see that with a lot of TV series, Dexter being one of them as well. Now, the reason I bring this up is because what a lot of people do actually miss is the fact that these are adaptations of the source material. They're not actually meant to be one-to-one, but as fans, we want it to be one-to-one. Especially with a story like One Piece where the manga is so great, what is the reason of changing it? Another thing that Toei does do is drag out their scenes. There are a lot of things that Toei do, but this one is genuinely one of the worst things, and it does tie back into the pacing, and that is why I'm going to get back on track with the pacing talk. As I've said before, many animes like to cover at least 2 to 3 chapters, maybe even 4. And because of that, Toei are like, be like stretching things out. So instead, we are gonna make the exact same character have 5 different reactions and span that around 40 to 85 seconds. Why? Because it allows them to slow down the pacing, and it seems like it can keep the fan interested, but I'm telling you, as soon as you go online and start searching about certain things, you then realize that, oh wait, they're just dragging it. Because that's exactly what happened with me. When I went online and found out that Toei dragged the Goku and Frieza fight, I was baffled. When I went to go read it in the manga, it felt completely different. The pacing felt like it was meant to be that quick. it felt like 5 minutes. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. It felt like it was actually like the time was ticking. While in the anime, although it was greatly animated and I will forever love it, it's one of my staples inside of my childhood, Jesus Christ, it was dragged out. And this issue right here is a Toei specific issue. Toei love dragging things out. They love keeping their long form series going for a long period of time so they can milk the money out of it. Think about it. Toei has had two of the biggest, highest grossing anime / mangas ever. They know what they need to do. They are going to drag it. And the more money they get, yes, they will obviously pour it back into the anime, but what they will do, when they know that an impactful scene is about to come up, they will drag all the moments around it and then make the impactful scene, and you'll be like, you know what, during that impactful scene, we even drag that as well. Why? Because if you can make an impactful scene one entire episode, people probably won't complain, and on top of that, it's more of a thing where it's like, more money, more views, we know what's coming in. Toei are king at doing that, so of course they're going to continuously do that. From having Dragon Ball to then getting One Piece right after it, it's quite literally insane. And you'll always find it that the most popular old gen type of mangas do get stretched like this. For instance, Parrot, due to them not wanting to obviously slow down the pace of it, they decided to then put in filler, which if you ask me, I'd rather you just put filler in, but just make sure that the filler is actually interesting. Like, there are a few funny filler arcs that we do get throughout Naruto, One Piece and Bleach. The most famous one is the GA arc from One Piece. That genuinely is better than some arcs inside the real series. While you have on the opposite spectrum, you have the Bound Invasion arc. Yeah, I don't think I want to relive that. And so these popular studios are willing to milk it. Now, as we've seen of late, My Hero, Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen being the main ones that come to mind instantly, what they will do is they will be seasonal. And I think we can all agree that seasonal is a million times better, unless you want to go down the Demon Slayer path and they start doing movies to milk every single drop of it. Now that's the wrong way to do seasonal anime, or just do things in that general consensus. That is just very, very bad. But dialing it back to One Piece, the final thing I do want to talk about that's really become the center of attention this week is how Toei may ruin impactful scenes. You see, in the manga, when Luffy impaired him for a bunny, it was a very, very great and grandiose thing. I remember that week of when the chapter dropped. Everybody loved that scene. I know a few people didn't, but I enjoyed it. In the anime though, they made it look very lackluster. It just didn't hit the same. Exact same moment. I mean, I can shift the thing onto Sanji a little bit. They changed the scene for some reason and made him like fake kick Kizaru. Like, to be honest, in my opinion, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it was a little bit weird because you're just changing around the scene for no reason. I mean, to be honest, it makes Sanji look cool to the average fan. You know, agenda heads are gonna get mad at it for some reason. But the Luffy thing just throw me off, and they've done it a few times where they make like a very impactful scene look very lackluster, like that's meant to be like a very, very important thing. I thought they would have done way better. Like, they did great with the Kuma flashback, like with Kuma running and whatnot. I thought that was phenomenal. So I thought they was gonna do it like something where you have Kuma on the side with Bonnie, and then you have like Luffy in the air. They transition into that. Like, they've done it many, many times where an impactful scene does feel impactful, but this time it was like, and it's happened a few times, especially on Egghead. Wano was way better with putting down those impactful scenes. I don't know why, but Egghead has been very, very hit or miss. The Kuma flashback was great though, but this, I don't know. And so to conclude, is Toei ruining One Piece? Now, in my opinion, due to me reading the manga and being so in love with the manga, I'm gonna say that as they aren't as one-to-one as we would want, I don't think they're ruining it, because even though it's not one-to-one and the pacing can do with a little bit of improvement, the overall animation and certain things they may add do actually boost them up. So I don't think they're ruining One Piece. I think that's a drag if people ever say that. But when I say they are dampening it, yes. Even though some of the animation clips that we've gotten from them have been beautiful, I do believe that if you watch it week to week and you seriously still want to get on with the series, you are in love with the series at that point. But I wouldn't be surprised if you put it in front of a normal person and they were like, okay, right, this is a little bit slow, but then they move on to something like Jujutsu Kaisen and they're instantly intrigued by it because of how fast the pacing is. The animation is keeping up with some One Piece cuts, and just the overall premise of things don't really get changed, and they can actually have a conversation with a manga person. They're like, no, nah, you gotta change this around. Like, that right there can be a little bit jarring, as I've had conversations with people that are only anime only with One Piece, and they were like, oh, didn't this happen in the manga? I was like, no, that's just Toei, and that's really it. I don't think Toei is ruining One Piece. I think they're dampening it, and they have ruined it for some people, especially in Dressrosa. A lot of fans that were big fans of Dressrosa still haven't recovered from that. Me personally, that was Wano for me, because of how slow the pacing was. Act 2 was a complete drag. But they're not ruining it. They are dampening it though. I will say that. And I will say that with the fans getting upset with them doing their own different things, that is extremely valid, as you're going to feel a certain way about your series. So when they change something about it, that is when you feel that way. If the changes were positive overall, then people wouldn't care, but that's just how it is, and that's how adaptations are going to be. The studio has been given the show to obviously take inspiration from the manga, but they can also make alterations to it and change it completely if they really wanted to. We've seen it multiple times on multiple different things, and anime is no different to television. We've seen it with many different popular series. As I said before, Dexter was completely altered. Akame ga Kill was altered. Weak Hero was altered. A lot of your favorite shows were altered by their show version counterpart. So I don't think Toei's shifting around a few scenes and whatnot is ruining the anime. But I will say this though, although Toei has upgraded many things about what they do with One Piece, they need to upgrade that damn soundboard. Why they still have the exact same soundboard that was used in 1988 for Dragon Ball is still beyond me, but hey, what can we do with a Toei experience? So, is Toei actually ruining One Piece? No, I can say they are dampening it down. Anyway, that is the end of the video. Hope you guys did enjoy this video, as I did enjoy making it. And so yeah, I've had this video on the back burner for a little while, as I was going to make it when people were complaining about them using AI, and I'm not gonna lie, I was furious about that. But yeah, that's something I also could include in the video, but it hasn't been dropped yet, so I'll keep it on the back burner. But yeah, I shall see you guys next video. I love you all. Comment down below what you think about the whole situation, and yeah, goodbye.